Distribution is spread of number of mankind in different areas of the world. Of course, this spread study help us to understand the demographic pattern of the world. At the same time, the factors which may affect that spread and hence. Now density. Density as a term is the number of people reside in one geographical unit. That geographical unit can be kilometer, that geographical unit can be meter, that geographical unit can be acres or so. Whatever geographical unit you take, the number of people resides, for example, I take kilometer. So number of people reside in 1 kilometer area of square kilometer when I'm talking about 1 square kilometer area of a particular place is called density. That unit may not be kilometer in all cases, but whatever unit one take, that unit will have to be there for the purpose of studying density. Now growth. Growth is what? The addition of additional number of people in a particular area in a given time span is called growth of population. Why I emphatically said additional people or the sum of extra people which are added in a particular time frame to the total population of a geography is understood as the growth of population of that area. So that is what we are going to study in the chapter. Now population change, spatial pattern and structure. What we mean when we say population change? When we say population change, we are talking about the mass migration, we are talking about the growth rate diversions, or we are talking about different patterns of the population changes. Now, determinants of population changes. What are those factors which helps or contributes in the change of population of a place? Again, age-sex ratio, rural-urban composition, and human development. Concept, selected indicators, and international comparisons. This is what we all are expected to study in the chapters. So let's begin. Of course, pattern of population distribution in the world suggests us. Just refer the screen. The screen suggests you 10 most populous countries of the world contribute around 60% of the world population. Roughly, there are 219 countries in the world. And out of 219, if we take just 10 countries, topmost 10 populous countries, it constitutes the 60% of the population. What does it mean? That means rest 209 countries contributes the 40% population of the world. The data itself suggests the uneven pattern of or the odd pattern of population distribution in the world. The more amazing fact is, out of these 10 countries, 6 are from Asia only. And there is no surprise when China and India, the world's most 2 populous countries, are there in Asia. So when it comes to population distribution, of course, see China, India, US, Indonesia, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Russia and Mexico. These are top 10 populous countries of the world. Now, how we find out the density of population? What I already told you. Density of the population is measured equal to population divided by the area. Let's say we are studying or we are the residents of a place called A. It has a population of 10 lakh and the geographical area of that place or extension of that place called A or that country called A is 1000 square kilometer. So 10 lakhs divided by that 1000, that will give you population density. Similarly, if we talk about factors, what are the factors which determines the population distribution? So needless to talk, where humankind prefer to live? Habitually, we are comfort-seeking species. And where we can get comforts? Of course, the factors which affects our decision to reside at some place. You can compare it with your own life or your parents' life. Whichever city you are living today, what are the factors which has contributed in it? That can be three major factors. Either the factor is geographical, or the factor is economical, or the factor is social or cultural. Let's think of what are the geographical factors. Water. Who among us will prefer a place where water availability is lesser? Of course, no. Who among us will prefer where landscape like deserts, mountains are largely allocated by nature itself? Who among us will love to be in a place where climates are all around the year, either cold, hot, or something else? Again, the soil of the place. So these are the four major geographical components: water, landscape, climate, and soil. Now, when it comes to CBET, if I ask you a question, which one among the following is not a geographical factor, and I add road transport. Of course, road transport can be a factor, but it's not geographical factor. It's communication factor or industrialization factor or urbanization factor, which is covered under economical factor. So that can be economical factor. Now, pause the video for a second and think of whichever city you are residing today, which of the factors, either it's geographical, economical, or social cultural, which has made you or your parents or your family to be at that place. Because geography itself is very practical science. So, social and cultural aspect. When we say social and cultural aspect, we are talking about political unrest. Who among us will love to be at a place where there is a social unrest? Of course, no. Whenever you have seen any social unrest take place at any country, from our country, India, our residents of India to those countries are always taken back by the government of India. Because at a place where there is a social unrest, none of us will live. So for our understanding as a chapter of population, people especially, there are three major factors which may be componented by other factors like water, landscape, climate, and soil in geographical factors, minerals, urbanization, and industrialization in economical factor, and social and cultural factor as well. So these are the factors which affects the population concentration in one word. Population concentration, that is the pattern of living the people in a particular area, is called population concentration. So population concentration is largely factored by these factors which we have already discussed. Now coming to growth. Growth can be positive or can be negative. Don't go it into colors. Why I said positive is red and negative is green? Because in terms of population, if the rate of growth is positive, of course, every human species coming to planet Earth requires a share in nature gifted resources. So any growth in population will have a share of that particular person that may lead towards the consumption of that resource which may be limited in the nature, and its accomplishment, or say its inevitability in future early than that of later. So when its growth is positive, of course it may not have a better impact on lifestyle and the relationship as well. Whereas if the growth is negative, how it is calculated when we say the growth, or maybe population be growing, but the rate can be negative. For Indian context, if I talk of, there was a period when India was growing with the rate of 4.5%. Today the rate is 2.9 and 2.8 itself. So although population is growing, but the rate has come down. So it's negative and positive. These are the two growth. Now coming to changes. How we study the changes of population? CBR, that is crude birth rate. When we say crude birth rate, what does it mean? A person may take place take place on planet Earth, or take birth on planet Earth, but his life may not be prolonged as 80 years or 90 years or a general human life expected. He may die at the age of 25, he may die at the age of 23. So we always talk of crude birth rate and crude death rate. That is CBR or CDR. What is CBR? CBR is the live births during the year, total people born in that year, and divided by mid-year population of the area multiplied by 1000. That will give us, many a times in CVET, this formula has been directly asked as an option. So you can think of having a good hand with formulas. So CBR is equal to BI, that is birth rate of a particular place. Similarly, P is mid-year population, and finally the third part, that is death, CDR. What is CDR? Again, the death rate, the number of deaths of a place, estimated mid-year population of that year, and finally multiplied by 1000. So that is how population change is studied. Now, what are the components of a change? How population can change? There can be 2-3 ways of change of population. Either people die, that can make the population change, or people take birth, that can change the number, or else people shift from one location to other location, that can change the total number of residents of a particular area. So if we think of how or what are the ways of population change, that can be CDR, CBR, or migration. Either death or birth or migration. These are the 3 ways through which population can change. Now, let's talk about migration. We have already understood CBR and CDR. Now coming to migration. Migration takes place when there is push or pull factor. Suppose I was born in a remote village of a very backward state. My village may not have electricity today. Now, that factor push comes into effect. What is that push factor? गांव में सुना होगा, बाहर जा रहे हैं, क्या करने? कमाने जा रहे हैं. अच्छा. ये पुश फैक्टर है. बाहर जा रहे हैं, सो बाहर क्यों जा रहे हैं? कमाने जा रहे हैं. बताने की जरूरत नहीं, अगर कमाने की अपॉर्चुनिटी मेरे ही प्लेस पर हो तो क्या मैं बाहर जाऊं? शायद आंसर ना हो। नॉट ओनली कमाना, पढ़ने जा रहा हूं, नॉट ओनली पढ़ना, इलाज कराने जा रहा हूं, नॉट ओनली इलाज कराना, वहां ट्रांसपोर्ट अच्छा है. सो देयर कैन बी मेनी रीजन that may not be as attractive at my place where I was born and I am living at this time, can have a better place where there are advanced sources of leading life, either in terms of employment, either in terms of healthcare, either in terms of education, or you name a need of life, and the betterment factor comes. That calls pull factor, pull and push factor. So what that place is doing for you, where there is a backwardness, that place is pushing you, leave this place, please leave this place. And what that place where all kind of facilities are there, it says, come yaar, kab tak rahoge wahan, kind of. That means that's the pull factor and that's the push factor. And this two combinedly contributes migration, and that is shifting from one location to another location. Now, migration can be hourly, migration can be in a day, or migration can be seasonal, or migration can be permanent. For example, if any of you have been to Mumbai, there are two places in Mumbai. There is something called Lower Parel and BKC. If you see the locals of Mumbai from always to Kalyan, from Panvel to Borivali to Mira Road, lakhs of people come to BKC and Lower Parel to work for. And that load of population for entire day between office hours is beared by that 2-3 locations. This is called day or per day population migration. Every day trains in the morning hours bring those people to a particular place, and in the evening all those people go back to their homes. But for entire day, the burden of that population is for a particular place. Again, think of, there is a market which is for 3 hours. There is a weekly market for 3 hours in a particular place which is far from our place. People go for shopping to that place for 3 hours, that is hourly migration. Sometimes there can be seasonal migration, which takes place from rural areas to urban areas. When there is an agriculture season or a crop season, be it Rabi or be it Kharif, the laborer of the village get back to their village. They work in agricultural works, and when there is no season of any crop, they move to metro cities in search of work, in search of income. That is called seasonal migration. In certain cases, think of a person went to a metro city for studies, studied there, got a job there, and he decided to be in that city for always. That is called permanent migration. Fortunately, the entire world is so unevenly developed. There are certain places which are very developed. There are certain places which are not at all developed. There are certain places which are developing. So urbanization takes place at every walk of life and at every place of life in every geographical areas. Of course, through the emergence of internet, through the emergence of facilities going down to rural areas, remote areas as well, migration may not have the similar kind of damaging impact what it was 5-10 years back, but of course the opportunities will take time to get developed in particular regions, and that's why migration and this push and pull factor will remain there. Now coming to demographic transition. What is demographic transition? Demographic transition represents predict the future population of any area. The theory tells us that population of any region changes from high birth, high death to low birth, low death. That is demographic cycle. How it works? When we say high birth and high death, to make you understand it much better, think of an era from 61 to 30 years span 91. We were growing in India, we were growing through a rate of more than 4% or 3.9%. What made the population growth come down? Was it the success of family planning? No. Geography always talks about, or especially human geography always talks about man and environment relationship. Today, fathering or parenting cost of one kid has gone up so sharp and at so high level that a set of parents cannot think of having another child. It was not the family planning policy which has made the population come down. Rather than it's the wisdom of the people which has grown by studying the impact of having more and more kids, and they are now happy with one or maximum two kids. That has made the population down. So that's what demographic cycle is studied into: high birth and high death. High birth will always cause high death. Why so? If number of people taking place on planet Earth is higher, of course the resources to lead life, quality life, I'm talking about quality life, the health care, of course may not be equally available for everyone. What caused people dying during COVID? Of course, the lesser ability of infrastructure, healthcare. Similarly, if it's a high birth, it's a high death rate, and from there coming down to low birth, low death. If lesser people are taking place or lesser people are born, of course the facilities can be equated to more of the people. That's how demographic cycle take place. Now coming to population control measures. Family planning and education. These are the two major concerns which combinedly result into control of population. How so? There is something called family planning. The term includes the expenditure pattern of next 20 years or 35 years or 60 years of a mankind. Supposingly, I'm a parent of a kid and I'm trying to find out the total cost I may have to occur or I may have to bear in next 25 years by the time my kid starts earning with a decent career ahead. It may cost me 60 to 1 crore to build the career of my kid. I am planning it at this stage of life, even if my wife haven't conceived the baby. Why I am planning it? अभी हमारी शादी हुई है सिर्फ, but I'm planning family. When I'm planning family, I want to welcome a kid in my family, add another member. But all economics I am doing today. Recall 50 years back, when having more and more child was the strength of the family, it was believed. जितने बच्चे रहेंगे उतना ठीक रहता है. 4 अगर बेकार भी निकल गए तो 2 तो अच्छे निकलेंगे, 4 होंगे तो 1 भी तो होगा. We have heard many a times said by our villagers, एक आंख को भी आंख कहते हैं क्या? That refers to एक किड को किड कहते हैं क्या? He may not live forever, but they have never considered the factors of healthcare, the factors of good schooling, the factors of good life leading factors, and that's how it has developed. So the number one thing which can affect the population control is family planning. Of course, once you plan your family, the expenditure may not advise you to go for another kid. And the second one is education. Since with education, you can go understanding the factors of this growth. And this way, the entire control takes place. With this much, thank you so much with people population chapter. I'll see you in the next chapter. Thank you very much. See you again.